Well, thanks for the opportunity to help you through this process. Now what to do when someone dies. This first video, I'm going to go through the first few bullet points. The initial video, I kind of touched on step 1. I'll recap it lightly, and then we'll go on to step 2 and 3 and what it means. Again, step 1, do very little. Hopefully by now, if you're going through these videos, you've gotten through the funeral, a few days have passed. You're starting to see which way's up, but again, understand this is a disorienting time, and we want to try to make sure we keep things in the right order. So do very little. Don't get caught up in worrying about the logistics. They will be taken care of when we need to take care of them. So that is step 1, and I can't say it enough. Get through that funeral, honor, celebrate, take your time through this process. We'll hit a point where we have to hit deadlines, but we'll know what they are, we'll know when they are, and that will be down the road. The second step in this process is don't claim authority. Now, that may seem like a strange thing to say, but there, as I've mentioned a few times, when we're going through this process, we kind of have a checklist in our mind. Like, we want to do some things. We want to feel like we're doing something useful. And so one of the things that people will do is call credit card companies and stop credit cards. And they may call a mortgage company. They may call a bank and freeze the bank account. Those are all fine things to do. They absolutely are. However, make sure you keep your conversation very short. And this is where this claim comes from, claim of authority. So you can call a bank and say, we want to put a freeze on this account. The person's died. Is there something we need to provide for you as proof? A lot of people will need a copy of a death certificate. It's important to know, do they need an original? Can they take a scan, fax, a copy? That's a good question to ask. Now, a bank account, depending on how it was owned, is going to be something that we'll worry about in later steps. But at least right now, activity will be frozen on that account. And that's important. Going back to what I said, do very little. Don't make a run on the bank and take all the money out. You can actually put yourself in a position where you can be personally liable for something that breaks bad by taking that money out. So don't do it. Don't do it. Freeze the account. Give the bank the information they need in order to do that. You can call credit card companies and just say, the person's passed. Is there something we can fax, scan, mail to you to let you know that? They will ask, is the estate probated, or where's the probate, or who's the executor? You don't know the answer to any of those questions. You do not. You can't know until we get to a determination about whether we even need probate and appoint an executor. A lot of times we don't need that, but the creditor wants paid. So, and that's going to kind of roll into the third point, but just give the information that we talk about. Person's name, date of death, and then ask what they might need after that. Don't claim to be the executor. If you had a power of attorney, you no longer have the function of a power of attorney. There's some caveat in there with the healthcare power of attorney if we had to do an autopsy or something like that. But the power of attorney dies with the person. Social Security numbers die with the person. The ability to use credit cards and such in that person's name are done as well. An executor is appointed by the court. We haven't gotten that far yet. We may not ever need to go to court, so don't claim to be the executor. The reason a creditor wants to know if you're the executor or who the executor is because they want to be able to call somebody to get paid. They want to make sure that they can get in line or try to jump the line to get paid ahead of everybody else. So just information, no claim of authority. You may be a trustee on a trust, but we don't know what assets are in the trust at this point. We don't know what authority that person's going to have and different things along those lines. So again, just provide the information, let them know, we'll let them know when we know. Okay, that's 2. 3 is don't pay creditors. Okay, so there will be a lot of pressure to pay creditors. You're going to call the credit card company. They're going to say something like, oh, the person only owes X amount of dollars. You can go ahead and pay that now, and then you can get paid back by the estate later. They just want paid. They are not a high priority person to be paid. There is a very specific order of the way people would get paid. If we go through an estate process, a probate or a trust or something along those lines, there is an order of who gets paid first. Secured creditors, if you have a loan on a house, they're very, very high, but they get paid when that house is sold. Administrative fees, the court's going to want to get paid. If you have to go through probate attorneys, you're going to get paid. You may have a PR fee. The state of Indiana, if you live in Indiana, and this is really geared towards people in Indiana, if you live in Indiana and you are 55 years of age or older when you die, you have to tell the state, hey, this person's died, and if you have a claim, state, you need to make it. They're a very high priority payee, much higher than creditors. They're behind a sliver of funeral, and then funeral comes back in. So there's an order. So don't pay, because I have been involved in too many estates where it looked like, oh, we've got plenty of money. But then when we find out how much in loans and things are out there and other judgments, I've done a lot of work in what's called an insolvent estate, which means it's a bankrupt estate. If someone paid money to a credit card and there's not money by the time we get down to where credit cards are supposed to be paid, that person can't be paid back. Credit card doesn't care because they got paid. They're not giving that money back. So don't pay creditors. Go back to 2, tell them the information that you can tell them, but don't pay anything. Also, be careful about mingling money for any purpose. The one sort of asterisk in this circumstance is a funeral. There are a lot of funeral homes that won't go through the process unless somebody pays. That's tricky. I can't tell you to do it. I can't tell you not to do it. But understand the exposure. If there's not real money in the estate, you may not get paid back. So be wary of what funeral costs are. Be aware of the fact that some may want you to pay on the front side, and we may not be able to get to money for a couple of months to pay them otherwise. So that's the first 3 things. Do very little, don't claim authority, and also do not pay creditors until it's time. So there's the first 3. The next video will go over a couple more points, and if there's some question that you would like to talk about in your circumstance when you're ready to address this, please feel free to give me a call. We'll set up an initial quick little conversation on the phone to just kind of frame up our meeting, and then we can get together and talk about what your circumstances are and what we need to do to work you through the process. When I get the book ready, the ebook, which will be a little more detailed on these points with some additional checklists and such, I'll email you the link to that as well. There's no charge for that. If you have or know of somebody that's going through this, please feel free to pass along these videos as well. This is something that I know how hard it is, and I want to make sure people do things in the right way to protect themselves, to protect the state, and to try to work through it in the most efficient way possible. So thanks for watching. I hope you get something out of the remaining videos, and I look forward to the opportunity to help you.